We take a closer look at the media industry in India and, in particular, representation. Indian newsrooms are staffed largely by elites, upper caste journalists. That has an impact on what news is covered and the way it's covered. A recent report from Oxfam and the Indian online news outlet News Laundry shows that 86% of journalists in the country were from what they call the general category or upper caste. When it comes to those in leadership roles, editors and publishers, 191 out of 218 managers and executives surveyed were in those categories, leaving very little opportunity for other groups. And in some cases, Dalits, formerly known as untouchables from the lowest rung of the Hindu caste system, have decided to take matters into their own hands. They have constitutional protections, but nevertheless, they face discrimination and violence. And they are not a minority group exactly. There are 300 million Dalits. And one newsroom called Muknayak, founded by them and for them, is working on telling their stories, as DW's Adil Bhatt reports from Delhi.
This slum in Delhi is home to Dalits, once known as untouchables. Meena Kotwal is Dalit herself. She's on her way to a reporting assignment. Today, Meena visits a grieving family.
Hello, how are you today?
Their two sons died while cleaning an underground sewer at a private hospital. They had inhaled poisonous gas. For centuries, Dalit families like this one have been restricted to jobs considered polluting by other castes. Almost a year has passed, and the grandfather says the family has not received any compensation. The two sons were their sole breadwinners.
Did you get any help from the government?
No, we did not receive any help from anyone.
A Delhi government program provides compensation to families of manual laborers who die on the job. But that hasn't happened in this case.
No one helped us. After their death, no one even visited us. We spent our days in dark silence, and when we miss them, then all of us start crying.
For Meena, reports of such injustice are common in her community. As a Dalit woman, she has also faced discrimination in newsrooms.
I learnt that they never listened to me and my ideas. Editors would say that these things keep happening and my stories were dropped.
So she decided to start her own news outlet focused on Dalits.
I understand their suffering. Dalits face discrimination everywhere, socially, in academia and in the job market. I can expose these stories.
Just as Meena gets back to the office, there is breaking news. A worker from the ruling BJP party was caught on camera, urinating on a tribal man. The story has gone viral.
Right now, the urine story is very important.
The editorial team talks about how to maximize coverage across their platforms. Most of their 1 million viewers find them on YouTube and Twitter. And their coverage is starting to have an impact.
Muknayak has changed many things. Atrocities against marginalised groups were not registered in the police station easily before. And because of our reporting, now the first information report gets filed in many cases. And for me, that's a very big change. We've also helped villagers to get drinking water, and one village even got electricity.
India's National Crime Records Bureau reports that crimes targeting Dalits are on the rise. Journalists like Meena Kotwal are trying to make that known, telling the stories of people who feel until now they have been overlooked.
Joining us is Sumit Maskar, who studies the caste system in India at the O.P. Jindal Global University. Thanks for joining us. We just saw a report about Dalit journalists running their own newsroom, telling their own stories. Can you start by giving viewers outside India a sense of how Dalits are covered in the Indian press?
Yeah. As far as Dalits are concerned, they are at the lower end of the social hierarchy, at the very bottom of the caste system. And as far as news media is concerned, uh, they don't really figure into the mainstream news media unless there is an incidence of violence or there is some news about the affirmative action. So these are only the two moments where the issue of Dalits have figured. But also the issue has mostly been seen in a negative frame, that whether we need affirmative action or not, or whether the violence actually is linked to the caste system or not. And this is the way largely Indian media has looked at. But one point I would like to make is that uh, Dalits have actually made efforts from the early 20th century or even before to make their space in the media. But because of lack of resources, they haven't been as successful as the mainstream media led by the upper caste Hindus in India.
And what are the problems when the national media outlets in India with a predominantly upper caste journalists report on Dalit issues? It's a certain perspective, and even if you are sympathetic and empathetic, I imagine that the journalists struggle with some basic assumptions that they might make.
Yeah. See, one thing that I would like to stress here is that the national media, whether it is left leaning, whether it's right leaning, or centrist or liberal, they pretty much have more or less similar assumptions about Dalits. And that has a huge impact on the way they look at any issue concerning to Dalits. So let's say the issue of affirmative action or reservation. So by and large, all these different ideologies that I mentioned, they were not necessarily in favor of affirmative action. It is only in the last 10, 15 years, they feel a little bit pressure from the society to say that, yes, there should be affirmative action. So that has had a major impact on the way, even the way policies were made for Dalits to enter the mainstream economy, politics, and society. For instance, they would always bring up the issue of efficiency, those who deserve versus those who are reserved. So, more or less, you don't see much difference when it comes to the issue of Dalits. So, this is only one case of affirmative action.
Right.
As far as violence is concerned, we also don't see that sensitivity. So overall, when it comes to diversity, particularly with related to caste, a very less effort has been taken by the media, whether it is really progressive media in terms of left-leaning or liberals, to take an effort to understand the society and to understand the perspective also of the victim. By and large, the representation that we get in the mainstream media so far has been the view of the perpetrators of violence or those from the dominant. It's like the top down view and not from those who are the victims. And that is
Got
the
it.
reason we definitely need media from Dalits.
So moving beyond journalism, what is the Modi government's position? Because crimes against Dalits are on the rise. Has his administration made any efforts to serve the community or not?
See, like the way media is, similarly, the way political parties also function. So interesting thing that actually we tend to miss out, and this is where Dalit perspective is very much important, whether in news media or in politics or anywhere, is that the distinction of these ideas or the ideologies make very little difference to the Dalit atrocities, which means that whether it's a left-wing government, centrist or right-wing, atrocities continue to take place. Now, if we say that look at BJP government, they also claimed in several parts of the country attacking the opposition parties, like it
Right.
could be left or liberal parties,
Got it.
that atrocities are increasing. But they have not made any substantial change since they have come in this regard.
Understood. Sumit Maskar, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.